It was pale yellow, soft and flowing, with a small brooch at the neckline that once belonged to my mother. I had my hair pressed and curled that morning, and I even dabbed on a little perfume, lavender, my favorite. It was my granddaughter's baby shower. My first grandbaby, having her own baby. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. Before I go on, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? I'd love to know who's out there, hearing this story with their heart. But as I walked through the doors of the event hall, carrying a small wrapped gift in my hand, I knew something was off. No one greeted me, no one hugged me, no one even looked up. A group of young women stood by the mimosa table laughing, loudly. A few others fussed with pink streamers and white balloons. My eyes searched the room for Simone, my granddaughter, but all I saw were strangers. I recognized maybe 2 or 3 distant cousins, but even they gave me that look, the kind that says, should I know her? I walked quietly to the gift table and placed my box gently among the others. I had bought a set of hand-stitched baby blankets. I'd made them myself. 3 little quilts, each embroidered with a different message. You are loved. You are safe. You are home. I don't have much, but I poured my heart into those. Excuse me, a young woman said behind me, holding an empty glass. Could you bring more juice to the table? We're out. I turned slowly. She looked me in the eye, smiled politely, and handed me the glass, like I was staff. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. So I took the glass. I walked over to the drink table and poured the juice. Not because I worked there. Not because I had to, but because it felt easier than correcting her in front of everyone. As I handed the glass back, someone else called, "Ma'am, can you take this plate?" Another guest. Another polite smile. I was invisible as a grandmother, but visible as the help. I stood near the back of the room, behind a tall fake ficus tree, watching the celebration unfold without me. They played. Games I wasn't asked to join. They took photos I wasn't invited into. And Simone, my Simone, walked right past me, glowing in her white lace dress, arm in arm with her boyfriend's mother. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Maybe she didn't see me. Or maybe she did. I remembered the day Simone was born. Her mother, my daughter Angela, had screamed for me in the hospital room. "Mama, don't leave," while her husband paced the hall. I was the one who held Simone first. I was the one who stayed up at night when Angela went back to work, rocking that baby to sleep, whispering songs my own mother taught me. I thought that counted for something. But as I sat down on a white folding chair near the corner of the room, alone, I realized something painful. Some people only value your presence when they need you. Now that I was older, no longer the strong caretaker, but the quiet background, I didn't seem to matter. At one point, the host called for a group photo. All the grandmothers and great-grandmothers. I stood up, heart pounding. Finally, I thought. Finally, a place in the moment. But just as I took a step forward, I heard someone say, "Oh no, not the caterer. We just need family." It was whispered, but loud enough. I froze. Someone took my arm. It was a woman I didn't recognize, tall, light-skinned, with perfect nails and a tight bun. "Oh, honey," she said, "you don't have to be in the picture. Just grab the plates, please. We're almost out." I stared at her hand on my arm. It felt cold, heavy. I pulled away gently, and I turned around. I walked slowly toward the exit, past the banners, the cupcakes, the fancy diaper cake centerpiece. Nobody stopped me. Nobody even noticed. Until... "Grandma?" It was Simone. Her voice cut through the chatter like a sharp wind. Everyone turned. I stopped, but I didn't turn around. "Grandma, where are you going?" she asked again. I heard heels click against the floor as she walked toward me. "Did someone say something?" she asked, quieter now. I turned, slowly, and for the first time, I looked her in the eye. Yes, I said. Someone said something, and no one corrected them. Simone didn't speak right away. Her eyes were wide, almost confused, but not entirely surprised. She looked around, scanning faces, as if seeing the party for the first time through my eyes. "Mama, wait. What's going on?" Angela said, coming toward us with a plate of sandwiches. I didn't answer right away. "Did you even see me when I walked in?" I asked, my voice low. Angela blinked. "Of course. Didn't we wave?" "You didn't wave. You looked through me like I was the help, just like the others." Simone stepped forward, her hand on my arm now. "Grandma, I didn't know." "You didn't look," I said. "That's the difference." There was a silence so heavy, even the party music in the background seemed to dim. I looked at Simone, at her smooth face, her glowing belly, the way she fidgeted like a child who'd just been caught doing something wrong. "You let me sit in the back," I continued, "while women who never changed your diaper or held you when you had the flu took center stage in your life." Angela's mouth opened slightly, but she closed it again. And Simone, she lowered her head. "I wasn't trying to cause a scene. God knows I don't like drama. But there's a certain kind of pain that builds up over decades, not days. It starts when they forget to call, when they stop asking if you're okay, when birthdays become texts, and then it explodes when you realize, even when you're there, you're not truly seen." I was done being quiet. "I brought you blankets," I said to Simone. "Made them by hand, but I had to sneak them onto the table like a stranger, like some hired worker in your memory." Her eyes filled with tears. "Grandma, I'm sorry." I nodded, but I didn't soften, not yet. "It's not about juice," I said, glancing back toward the drink table. "It's not about being asked to clean up. It's about respect, about family, about knowing where you come from and who stood by you, even when you forgot." That's when a voice came from the far side of the room. "She's right." Everyone turned. It was Aunt Rochelle, 63 years old, a nurse her whole life, never married, always spoke like every word was a verdict from the heavens. She stood with her cane in one hand and her purse clutched in the other. "I saw how y'all looked at her, how you treated her, and it made my stomach turn." People began to murmur, unsure whether to laugh or stay quiet. "She's your elder. She should have had a seat at the front table, not in the shadows. If you forget your roots, don't be surprised when the tree starts dying." Now that got their attention. Simone looked like she might collapse from embarrassment or guilt, or both. Angela's cheeks flushed red. I stayed silent, because sometimes silence says more than tears ever could. Later, someone brought me a chair. Not just any chair, the one with the cushioned back from the head table. Someone else brought me a plate. Someone asked if I wanted water. And Simone, my Simone, she walked me to the front, past all the eyes, and sat beside me like a little girl again. "I don't want to forget where I come from," she whispered. "I don't want my baby to grow up not knowing who held me when I cried." I took her hand. It was warm, trembling. "I came here to be part of the memory," I said, "not the background of someone else's party." The rest of the afternoon passed quietly. No more commands, no more confusion. Just soft glances, awkward smiles, and a few mumbled apologies that weren't really needed, but were appreciated all the same. Simone cut the cake and brought me the first piece. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. Some things are better felt than said. It was near sunset when the last guests left. The balloons had begun to sag. The cake was half-eaten. Wrapping paper covered the floor like fallen petals. Angela was in the back organizing leftover food with a cousin, and the venue staff started folding chairs and sweeping crumbs. Simone, and I sat outside on a wooden bench near the parking lot. Just the two of us. No cameras, no centerpieces, no judging glances. "Grandma," she said softly, "I never meant for that to happen." I nodded. "I know. I guess I assumed people would know who you are." "That's the thing, baby," I replied. "Assumption is what erases people like me." She bit her lip. She looked tired, not from the pregnancy, but from something deeper. Guilt, maybe. Or shame. I reached into my purse and pulled out a small envelope. "I wasn't going to give you this today, but maybe it's the right time now." She looked at it, puzzled. "What is it?" "A letter about who I am, who I was before all this." Simone unfolded the paper carefully. It wasn't long, just a few lines, handwritten, dated from years ago. My handwriting, neat, slanted with strong loops. She read in silence. Her face changed. You got accepted to nursing school?" she whispered. I smiled faintly. "In 1968, top of my class. But I never knew you studied nursing. You were always just a housekeeper, a cook, a sitter for your cousins?" I said it without anger, just truth. She nodded, ashamed. "I turned it down," I continued. "Your great-granddaddy got sick. I was the only one around to care for him. Back then, we didn't have the luxury to chase dreams if someone needed feeding, bathing, or burying." She folded the letter slowly, reverently. "I could have been a nurse," I said. "Maybe a head nurse by now. But life chose differently. And so did I. Doesn't mean I became invisible." Simone's eyes were glassy now. "I didn't know," she whispered. "No," I said gently, "but now you do." We sat, in silence for a long time. And then she said something that broke me. "Will you help me name her?" I turned to her slowly. "The baby," she continued. "I wanted to honor someone who mattered. I thought maybe your name, or something from your life." Tears welled up in my eyes before I could even speak. "Do you remember what I always say when things go wrong?" I asked. Simone nodded. "You say, 'Still, we rise.'" I smiled. "Name her Mariah. It means God is my teacher." And that's what life's been for me, a long, winding classroom. When we went back inside, Angela was waiting with a question in her eyes. But I simply said, "We're okay." That night, I sat alone on my bed, holding the letter I'd shown Simone. And I smiled. Because I realized something. I wasn't just seen that day. I was remembered. Not for what I served, but for what I sacrificed. And that was enough. 2 weeks passed after the baby shower. The first few days were quiet. No calls, no texts. I didn't expect much. Families don't change overnight. Not even after tears and truth are poured out like wine at a Sunday dinner. But on the third morning, the doorbell rang. It was Simone. She stood on my porch holding a plastic grocery bag in one hand and a bouquet of white tulips in the other. "Thought you might need eggs," she said with a nervous laugh, "and I didn't want to wait too long to say thank you." I opened the screen door. "For what?" I asked, though I already knew. For being there, for not leaving, for raising me to see past what I didn't want to see. We sat in my kitchen like old times. She asked about my cornbread recipe, about my knees, about the photos on the fridge. Then she asked the question I didn't know I needed to hear. "Would you come to the hospital when I deliver?" I blinked. "Of course," I said, steadying my voice. "If you want me there." "I do," she whispered. "I need you there." Something changed after that. She started calling me Grandma again, not just in private, but in public, at the pharmacy, at church, even on social media. One day I opened Facebook on my old tablet, and there it was, a photo of the two of us at the baby shower, me smiling, her hand on my shoulder. The caption read, "This woman made me who I am. She's not the help. She's the heart." I stared at that screen until the words blurred. Angela, on the other hand, stayed distant. She texted once, "Hope you're well, Mama." No apology, no mention of what happened. Just politeness wrapped in silence. That was her way. She was raised in a different time, taught to keep face, even when hearts were breaking behind closed doors. But it still hurt. At church the next Sunday, something else happened. Two women I'd known for years, Sister Raylene and Deaconess Turner, came up to me in the fellowship hall. "We heard about what happened," Raylene said, her voice low but kind. "You handled it with grace," added Deaconess Turner. "And strength. Folks are talking." "What are they saying?" I asked, half smiling. "That you reminded this generation where they come from." I nodded, unsure what to say. Raylene reached for my hand. "Sometimes silence keeps us invisible. But you spoke, and we saw you again." I hadn't realized how many people had stopped seeing me, not out of cruelty, but out of convenience. A week later, Simone invited me to a mother-daughter brunch. It was something her friend was hosting for young moms and their mothers. At first, I hesitated. Would I fit in? Would they judge my dress, my shoes, my age? But when I walked in, Simone beamed. She introduced me to everyone. "This is my grandma," she said with pride. "She's the reason I'm even standing here today." A few women looked surprised. One even said, "I thought you were her, nanny or something." Simone didn't flinch. "Nope," she replied. "She's my legacy." Later that day, she showed me a tiny onesie she'd bought. It read, "Still we rise, like Grandma taught me." I didn't cry. I just held it, hands trembling, and whispered, "That baby's already wrapped in love." But the most unexpected moment came when Angela finally showed up. I was sitting on my porch, shelling peas. She pulled up in her car, sat down without a word, and watched me work. "You were right," she said after a long pause. I didn't answer. "I let other people define the tone of that day. And I let you be disrespected in a space that should have been yours too." I nodded slowly. It's never too late to change how the story goes. Angela reached for the bowl of peas and began shelling beside me. That was her apology. And I accepted it. By the end of the month, my name was on everything. On the invitation, to the naming ceremony, on the thank you cards Simone sent out, even on the family group chat where they renamed me Queen G. It was a small thing, but after a lifetime of being seen as what I do, not who I am, it meant everything. The call came just after midnight. Simone's voice was breathless but excited. "Grandma, it's time." I'd kept a small overnight bag by the door for weeks. Nothing fancy, just a change of clothes, my reading glasses, peppermint oil, and the small leather-bound Bible I'd carried since my own daughter was born. Angela picked me up in silence. We didn't talk much on the way to the hospital, but there was no tension, just a quiet understanding that something bigger than both of us was about to happen. When we arrived, Simone was already in the delivery room, clutching the side rails, sweat on her brow. Her partner stood beside her, holding her hand, looking helpless. The nurse asked, "Who's the second support person?" Before anyone else could answer, Simone said, "My grandma." I stood behind her and whispered what my own mother whispered to me once. "Breathe deep. You're stronger than the pain." She cried, she screamed, she laughed. And then, a baby girl entered this world with a cry so loud, so fierce, it made us all pause. The doctor smiled. A strong one. They cleaned her, wrapped her in a pink blanket, and placed her in Simone's arms. Tears streamed down Simone's face. "I want her to meet the woman she's named after," she said. The nurse turned to me, and I held my great-granddaughter for the first time. Her name? Mariah Grace. Grace. That's what I'd always tried to carry, even when the world made it hard. I looked at that tiny face and saw generations wrapped in soft brown skin and new breath. I thought of the first time I held Simone, how I had no idea who she'd become, how she'd hurt me and heal me in the same lifetime. And now this child, blinking up at me, would someday have her own stories. I whispered to her, "You come from strong women. Never forget that." Later, while Simone slept, I walked down the hospital hallway to the little waiting room. Angela was there, alone. She stood when she saw me. "She looks just like you," she said. I smiled. "She's got your stubborn chin." Angela chuckled, then turned serious. "I want you to know something. I was wrong about a lot of things." I waited. "You deserved better, not just at the shower, but in life. You gave up so much for all of us." My throat tightened. "I wasn't always the daughter you needed," she continued, "but I want to be the kind of mother, and now grandmother, you can be proud of." I took her hand. It was calloused, warm, like mine once was. "You already are," I said softly. 3 days later, we had a small gathering at Simone's house. Not a big party, just close family. They asked me to say a few words before we passed the baby around. I stood, looked at the faces that once looked through me, and smiled. "I've been called many things in my life," I said. "Cook, cleaner, nanny, help. But today, I'm called great-grandma, and I think that might be the best title I've ever had. Laughter, tears, hugs. For once, nobody tried to rush me off the mic. Nobody looked past me. They looked at me." And later, as I sat on the porch with Mariah Grace sleeping against my chest, I thought, maybe it's never too late to be seen, to be heard, to be loved out loud. Because the truth is, they may have treated me like the help once, but now, they know I was the foundation, the memory keeper, the reason they all made it this far. And I didn't have to shout to be remembered. I just had to speak, once, and never look back. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to our channel and stay with us for the next story. It's already waiting for you on the screen. Because every story told by a grandmother carries the strength of generations. Click and keep listening. We'll be right here.